Welcome back to Alliance Tournament 15. I am Nikal Vassal. I will be your host for this part of the show. I am joined by Suetonia and Ithaca Hawk. Our next game coming up right now will be Waffles versus The Ronin. Now, both of these teams are obviously well-known names around here. If I can get your predictions, gentlemen. Suetonia, I'll start with you. Who would you prefer in this matchup?
I think The Ronin is the stronger team, but, you know, I'm Team 20 all the way.
Has to be it. And Ithaca, your decision?
I like Ronin for this one. They've shown some pretty good execution so far this tournament. So.
Okay, well, let's throw it over to the casters and get this show underway. Waffles versus The Ronin.
Hello everyone and welcome. I am Apothony, joined once again by my boy Elise Randolph for this amazing match between Waffles and The Ronin with two flagships on field. We have a Balgorn, double Vindy and Neros, double Magus, double Daredevil, double Punisher. A crazy top-heavy team here from Waffles. Elise, why don't you run us down the Ronin team?
Alright, well, it's going to sound a whole lot the same. Ronin also have their flag Balgorn, double Vindys, double Pontifexes for Lings, double Blackbirds, the only difference between the Ronin and the Waffle side, a double Deacons instead of the Oneros, and a Crucifier. This is going to be absolutely absurd with the entire Ronin team within 10 kilometers of the beacon. Waffles are a little bit more staggered. They have their Balgorn at 20 kilometers. There are two Vindys at 0. So we're going to see some Vindy on Vindy action coming up right quick. And with flag Balgorns versus Vindicators, Blackbirds, oh my god, I don't even know what's going to happen. Apothony, what do we have to look out for here?
I mean, this is just a classic slugfest. So basically, all of the points on each of the teams are in that top end. The Blackbirds may help a little bit more the Ronin to block out that DPS, but we're going to have to see how the battleships fall on either side. And both Bals being flagships means that we are in for one hell of an expensive match.
Absolutely. And here we go, action starting. Vindicators webbed early on for both teams. Rez's Vindicator is going to be the primary, but, you know, Waffles have locked down both of the other Ronin Vindicators, so it's just going to be a cage match right here in the beginning. And also Blackbirds from the Ronin side are super tackled directly next to these Vindicators.
Yeah, we've got the Balgorn of Guados from the Ronin here, doing his best to burn hell out of dodge away from those Vindys. He's got about 10k away, but he's doing all right. We've got that Vindy from Reza, their CEO, possibly their target caller, taking a ton of damage here. Also note that the Vindys for the Waffle side are TD'd, so combined with Jams and TDs, Ronin have a massive advantage when it comes to actually mitigating DPS here. As you can see, their Vindys are holding okay, even though Deacons can put less reps than Aneris. It's that damage mitigation that's much more of the story here, with the first Waffles Vindy going down into structure, as well as them losing a Daredevil as well at the same time.
So this Balgorn from the Waffle side has been jammed for 3 cycles in a row. It hasn't been able to get its newts off at all. Hasn't been able to do anything. Meanwhile, Waffles lose Reza's Vindy straight off, and the Waffles Oneros, piloted by Tiana Stark, has been Balgorn neuted and nosed. So this thing is going to be far less effective. This Balgorn is not able to do anything. It's finally able to get some Nos and Newts off. This is the first time in the match it's been able to get a lock.
Yeah, that is so rough. You know, when you have those Blackbirds, when you have that correct racial jams applied to the correct target, so many downs will happen. That's why all battleships are always fitted with a sensor booster, because even then, even with a full SIBO, you can still get those unlucky jams for as many cycles as we have there. So a second Daredevil going down for Waffles now, a Punisher following this bottom end falling, at the same time as Waffles lose their second Vindy. Ronin barely managing to keep their own Vindy up. They haven't lost anything so far. Ronin in absolute command of this match.
Absolutely. I mean, this second Vindicator belonging to Sys 7 is going to be down in any second here. And these Vindicators, they almost got John Locke, the Ronin Vindicator, down, but not nearly enough. Waffles are now focusing with some of their support on the Blackbird of Shivaja. But, you know, this Blackbird looks like it's going to tank just fine, or at least be able to live longer than the Vindicator on the Waffle side. So, you know, Ronin, again, making super good trades.
Yeah, trading 2 Vindicators, 2 Daredevils for a Blackbird is not a trade anyone wants to make. Now, with that second Vindy down, almost all of the Waffles DPS gone here. Gumbal's putting out maybe 500 to 600 damage. The Maguses can do out 150 each. The Punishers, maybe hitting 100 depending on the fit, unless they're just full tank tackle Punishers. Waffles, as we can see, their attack bar is so incredibly low, whereas the Ronin, still double Vindy. Bal, double Fontifix of damage remaining. And there we go, more ships dropping from Waffles. In a very similar match here, very similar comps, Waffles going for the T2 Cruiser Logi variant, Ronin going for their signature Logifrigs. We are seeing today the rise of the Logifrig this weekend. We've got to have all pilots now practicing, if they haven't been already, practicing Logifrigs. How do they work? Getting as good as them as they possibly can. Even if they don't feel comfortable running them, you have to know how to fight them now. With Merba chassis, flag Balgorn for Waffles going down. I cannot wait to see the fit for that on the desk, whether it's faction fit or cheap fit or officer fit or whatever.
I have a feeling it's going to be a pretty blinged out fit. Interesting, Waffles didn't take their Rabisu in this one. This is the match where you want to bring it. This is the loser's bracket. Earlier today, we had, the winner's bracket. If you lose in the winner's bracket, sure, it blows that you get sent to the loser's bracket, but at least you're not eliminated. With a loss here, Waffles would be completely eliminated from Alliance Tournament 15, and that looks exactly like what's happened. Ronin just dominating them with a very similar setup. I would be willing to bet that these Blackbirds had skew jammers and knew exactly what Waffles wanted to take.
Yeah,
this
good fights
Oneros
going
hasn't been
down.
able to get any reps off. The Balgorn hasn't been able to put its control for the entirety of the match. And, this Crucifier just crippled these twin Vindicators. All they could do was shoot a single Vindicator the entire match, and the Deacons kept him alive just fine.
Yeah, I mean, Waffles did bring the Rabiso in their last match in the loser bracket and lost it. Reza posting on it, I think it was Twitter or Reddit, that, 200 bill in the bank, already paid for, already replaced. But it's not just having the money, is it? It's finding a seller. They're so limited and so valuable in the tournament, it might not have been possible for them to have source another Rabisu with all the teams wanting as many as they can get for their own tournament runs. We'll have to see in future whether they can get any more Rabisus or they just decided not to field it for this match. Like I said, good fights going local, absolute manner. Waffles going out in style here. They did make it a fair number of matches into the port tournament. I think this is fairly similar to last year's run, maybe a touch better. I can't quite remember whether it's 1 or 2 matches. They're still getting a ton of skins. Of course, every team getting a whole bunch of 80 special skins for every match they play in. So Waffles do have a little something to go home with and share out to their members. But the Ronin going through to the next round, Ronin falling out of the tournament this early would be a pretty major upset here, even against Waffles. So congratulations to the Ronin as they go through to the next round.
Yeah, they will be facing Snuffed Out next weekend. Snuffed Out knocked down earlier today, taking a Tinker that didn't quite work out for them too well. So Ronin versus Snuffed Out should be an interesting match next week. Waffles eliminated here, losing their flagship in the process. Props to Waffles for taking it, and props to Ronin for flying out of control good. Great decision making. These Blackbird pilots, everyone hates ECM. I'm sure the Ronin are feeling a little bit better about ECM right now. Their control bar is so massive, it actually breaks the screen. The one you saw on the screen, it went all the way off the screen to the right. So, a massive amount of control and a massive amount of damage. Ronin bringing back the 3 battleship cores in style, and they can get away with that because they have the best frigate Logi pilots in the game, surely. So, props to them. They had everything going for them. Ronin backs against the walls. They knew they had to take a good setup, and this is one of their better ones with the flag Balgorn. It'll be interesting to see what else the Ronin have in their bag. In the losers bracket, you have to play more matches.
Yeah, we've just been informed by our man CCP Fozzy that Waffles shot the Balgorn wreck after it went down to deny Ronin any loot that went out. However, we will be able to see what the loot would have been if Ronin had managed to grab it on screen a little bit later if the guys upstairs can prepare that for us. The final ship's now falling. The 2 Magus are the last things left. Magus providing links, of course, drone boats. Interestingly, you can do 1, 2, or 3 link Magus depending on how hard you neuter the potential tank. Ronin leaving them for last, as they are probably the smallest threat left over, obviously, in the fairly high tanky ships, as they do have the command destroyer resist bonus.
I can confirm that Waffles did have double Toby Webbs on their Balgorn, and they did manage to shoot the wreck. 1 Toby Webb dropped, but they killed the wreck before it got looted, I believe. So Toby Webb down to the
Elise,
guys.
how much does a Toby Webb go for these days? They're so rare.
20 bill around tournament time is a pretty fair price for Toby Webb, and that was a double Toby Webb on their Balgorn. So those webs can reach out to 70 kilometers. Pretty impressive stuff, and makes that Balgorn. That's why the Balgorn's such a great flagship, because when you pump money into it, it becomes so good.
Yeah, it certainly is the flagship that gains the most when you flag it up. Why we see so many people choosing it. They're linking the Killmen and Localers now. As this Megas goes down, and the final Waffles Megas goes down, really fun match to watch. Nice big slugfest. I love watching it when two teams just go into the center, all brawl it down. Unfortunately, Waffles came out worse off here, and the Ronin, like we said, are going through. But that is pretty much going to be it here from myself, Apotony, and Elise for this match between Waffles and Ronin. The first match of the losers bracket that we're going through in the rest of today. So as this Megas dies, we will be sending it back to the studio.
Is a union of powerful mega corporations have brought its people both misery and triumph.
Welcome back to Alliance Tournament 15. We have just witnessed Waffles versus the Ronin. The Ronin, they're taking a decisive victory and managing to blow up a very nice flagship there. We'll see if we can get that kill mail for you guys on screen shortly. But Suetonia, I want to talk to you first about the differences between these teams. What kind of were the main differences that you noticed, and how did that sort of impact the game?
So both teams decided to bring double Vindi Balgon, which is a really strong team. However, the Ronin opted to go for 2 logistic frigates, and by doing that, they were able to bring stronger support. They were able to bring those double Blackbirds, which I think was really what swung that match in the Ronin's favour. The Waffles, instead of bringing 2 Logi frigates, they bought the Tech-2 Neros. But then, because of that, they had to run Punishers and Daredevils instead of those Blackbirds, which I think were really crucial in that match for them.
Okay, and if we get the Balgon flagship kill mail up on screen, Ithaca, if you can take us through this amazing ship, which is now a wreck. And I do want to point out, just before we go through this, that none of this will be taken from this fight, as the Waffles team did manage to kill the wreck.
Wow, didn't know that. That's a good one to know. So this has been a very expensive Alliance tournament for Waffles, losing a Rabisu and a Flag Bal. Now the value there is showing about 42 bill, but I think that's something that Squiz, who runs Zkill, will have to fix, because as most of us know, Tobias webs, the strongest web in the game, if you can find 2 of them for 42 billion, then you're doing a fantastic job. Those are more likely to go, especially during or before AT, for upwards of 30 to 40 billion each. So I would say this Balgorn cost is more likely 80 billion rather than 40. But this is the first proper top tier Balgorn fit that we've seen this tournament. This is a fit for a team that thought they could go really further than they've went, unfortunately.
Yeah, and as we know, we are in the losers bracket at this point, so more teams going to be enticed to bring out their flagships to play, because at this point, they really don't have anything to lose. They have to win these games, else they're out the tournament, and that is unacceptable. So yeah, definitely interesting from that point of view. So yeah, as we were talking towards earlier about logistics, so we did see logistics, 2 logistics frigates there. What's your kind of opinion on double logistics frigates versus, 1 logistics cruiser? And in that matchup, how does that change the dynamic?
Well, I think so Tony had it on the head when he said you've got more points to spread around because your logistics cruiser Tech 2 is going to be 17 points. Your pair of deacons, although you're one man down essentially, you get roughly the same repping power but for only 10 points, which is a lot less. It allows you to spread those points around the rest of the field. You do need a higher quality of pilot to be able to do it effectively. They need to run as a team. But especially against a very battleship heavy comp, one of the advantages of those really tiny signature frigates, especially if they're overpropped, if they're 10 MN, they will be very, very hard to hit by battleship weapons. Even under Vindicator webs, they'll be able to just kind of prop around and rep each other. Obviously, a Tech 2 ballistic cruiser can only rep itself with local tank or maybe rep bots, so having a Logi buddy to keep you alive is just very, very strong, especially against battleships.
Absolutely. And another thing we have noticed so far, Suetonia, is that the Daredevil is a more popular pick than ever. Do you think that's mainly influenced by the reduction in point cost that was given because it is a Serpentis-sponsored event? Or do you think that the Daredevil would have remained popular regardless?
I think it's only because the Daredevil is 2 points cheaper. I don't think you would... I think there is a purpose where I think you can run Daredevil, and I do think it's a powerful pick in some specific comps. But I don't think you just put it inside every single comp.
Fair enough. And Ithaca, I mean, on that point, is there any other sort of frigates you would like to see more of in this tournament? Maybe over the Daredevil or just replacing it entirely? Or is it kind of, do you just expect to see more and more Daredevils as this goes on?
Yeah, I think Daredevils are really going to be the flavour of the day, simply because for 2 points, you can get this faction frigate with those 90% webs, pretty decent damage, good projection if you go rails, pretty decent tank for 2 points. I mean, what else are you going to bring instead? We've seen a couple of Punishers, maybe some Merlins if you're going Shield, they're roughly the same points, but it just comes down to, at the end of the day, why would you pick these over a Daredevil unless you have a very specific reason that you need to do it in your specific comp? So, Daredevils, basically.
And on the popular front of ships, Blackbirds, seeing them a lot today. Now, interestingly, most of the times we've seen them, they've been applied in a double configuration, so bringing 2 of them. They're typically plated as well, because obviously you want to be saving those mid slots for the jams. You know, what are your guys' opinions on, the Blackbird in general? Do you think it's sort of a risky pick? Do you pray to RNGesus for that critical jam on that battle cruiser? Or do you think it's kind of a stable and safe choice for teams to be taking?
I think it's somewhat of a stable and safe choice. You can kind of guess with what your opponent's going to bring. You know, if Navy BCs are open and drones are open, for example, Galanti jammers, you probably can't go wrong there. Galanti and Amar jammers in case there's deacons. Sometimes Pontifexes, Punishers, but you can go jammers pretty safe, I think. Also, at only 6 points, a Blackbird can, I think, very reliably shut down about 2 cruisers most of the time. So by investing just 12 points and 2 pilots, you can pretty much take away 4 pilots from the opponent's team. So they're very powerful control ships.
Okay, and do you think 2's overkill at this point? Do you think that 1 is sort of enough of a deterrent for your opponent, or do you think having 2 is just that extra meanness that you need to be bringing to the fights?
I mean, I think for 6 points, 12 total for 2, you may as well just bring 2, because even if you're pretty sure that you're going to be able to get successful jams off on a couple of ships, there's always that element of RNGesus that could turn around and say, you know what, not today, and you fail all your jams. It can happen. We've seen, for example, jamming Ibis jammer a battleship last year, I believe, a hero jam. So it can go both ways. You can get a hero jam off, or you could just fail in all fronts. And if you are sacrificing damage and tackle to bring those jams, you want to make sure that they work. I mean, you're banking on it. Your team's kind of built around that. If those jams were removed, which essentially is what they are if they don't land, it's not as if they're less effective. It's just as if those ships were never there. You really want to double check that it's going to work.
Yeah, they are very, very effective. Now, I am being told that we do have a command ship graph to go through. So, Suetonia, a man who has played in the Alliance tournaments, can you please take us through this graph and sort of your thoughts on it?
Okay, so the EOS is the most popular command ship. It's by far the most flexible one, being able to go with drones. It can also be used as a rep bot holder. It's also got the most utility too. Like you can just fit 2 command processor rigs on it, get 4 links, and just use it as like a standalone command ship if you're only bringing 1 of it, which we see quite often in drone comps. So yeah, definitely the most flexible one. Definitely, and it can also work well in brawl comps too. Magus, I'm surprised that it's more popular than the other command destroyers, but again, it's very flexible in armor. It's got 4 mid slots, so not a lot of space for tackle. for remote sensor boosters, utility. Doesn't seem to have that much of a win rate though, which compared to the other ones. Stork, Pontifex, both very solid command destroyers, and that they have a much higher win rate in comparison to the Magus. Sleipnir, it's been like a staple in tournaments since 10 years.
Yeah.
Definitely a solid pick. Same with the Astarte now. Ever since it got buffed in the Odyssey expansion, it's become just as popular as the Sleipnir for good reason. Then we got Bifrost. Kind of like the Magus, it hasn't seen as much wins. I think the more sort of tanky focused ones, like the Stork and Pontifex, are doing a bit.
Poor Damnation here, not a single pick in this tournament. Ithaca, I am quite interested. The Magus here picked a lot more, but the win percentage for the Stork is considerably higher. Any inclination why that might be?
I mean, I think it might be because we've seen the Magus get used a couple of times in some drone all-ins, because obviously it can field some drones as well. So if you're bringing a drone all-in, it's a pretty cheap, cost-effective way of bringing more drones as well as boosts. So I think that's probably why we see them dying a lot. All-ins.
So it looks like we do have players on grid and ready to roll. The next game coming up for today is going to be End of Life versus Team Skill. So we're going to pass it on to the casters and get this game underway.
All right, guys, welcome back to